Hey there, folks, and welcome back to Whisper Dark. You're in for a real treat tonight, so settle in, dim those lights, and let's get lost in a story that'll make your skin crawl. This is the kind of tale that sticks with you, the kind that has you glancing at your rearview mirror on those late-night drives. I'm thrilled to have you here with me on Whisper Dark, where we dive deep into the unexplained, the eerie, and the downright unsettling. So, grab a blanket or maybe something stronger and let's get started. What I'm about to tell you is something that has no explanation. It's the strangest thing that's ever happened to me or anyone I personally know, and trust me, I've been trying to wrap my head around it ever since. I work late hours at this dive bar about 30 minutes from my house, out in a rural stretch where the world feels like it's holding its breath. The bar's nothing to write home about, a squat, weathered brick building that looks like it's been there since the dawn of time, with a flickering neon sign that buzzes like a trapped fly. Inside, it's all creaky wooden floors, scuffed up bar stools, and that lingering smell of spilled whiskey and fried onions baked into the walls. The air's always thick with it, no matter how much I scrub the countertops at closing. You can feel the history in that place. Decades of laughter, arguments, and half-told stories soaking into the woodwork. It's steady work, though, and out here where jobs are as rare as a sunny day in February, you take what you can get. Most nights are quiet, just me pouring drinks for the regulars. Guys like Tommy, who's always got a new conspiracy theory, or Lila, who swears she saw Bigfoot in the woods back in '98. They're good people, and their stories keep me entertained while I wipe down glasses under the dim, flickering lights. That night was no different, or so I thought. It was a slow shift, the kind where you're watching the clock more than the customers. I remember joking with Lila about her latest tale, something about a glowing orb she saw over her farm last summer. Tommy chimed in, saying it was probably a government drone, and we all had a laugh. I locked up around 2 a.m., the key sticking in the rusty deadbolt as always, and stepped out into the cool night air. It hit me like a wave, crisp and heavy with the scent of wet grass and distant pine. My car, an old sedan with a dented fender and a dashboard littered with coffee cups, was parked out front under the bar's lone street lamp, its weak glow barely cutting through the dark. I slid into the driver's seat, the worn leather creaking under me, and the familiar smell of stale fries and my cheap cologne filled the space. The engine sputtered to life with a low, throaty rumble, and I pulled onto the road, ready for the long drive home. Now, these back roads I take home are something else entirely. They're not like city streets with their bright lights and constant hum of traffic. No, these are narrow, twisting ribbons of asphalt that snake through dense woods and sprawling farmlands, where the only light comes from your headlights and maybe the moon if you're lucky. The trees out here are ancient, their gnarled branches arching over the road like they're trying to hold it down. In the daytime, you can see fields stretching out, golden and endless, with the occasional red barn breaking the horizon. But at night, it's just you and the dark, the world reduced to whatever your headlights can touch. I've always liked it, though. After a night of pouring drinks and dodging Tommy's wild theories, it's my time to decompress. I'll crank the radio sometimes, singing off-key to classic rock, or just let the silence wash over me, thinking about the characters I met at the bar or old memories, like the time my dad taught me to drive on these same roads, warning me about deer and slick curves. But that night, something was off from the jump. A few miles into the drive, I noticed the fog rolling in, thick and heavy, like it was spilling out of the woods themselves. I've driven these roads in all kinds of weather, blizzards, downpours, you name it, but this fog was different. It was dense, almost alive, curling around the trees like ghostly fingers and swallowing the road ahead. My headlights barely pierced it, turning the world into a hazy white void where shapes blurred and faded. I cracked the window, and the air that rushed in was cold, damp, carrying the earthy scent of mud and decaying leaves with a faint metallic tang that made me think of rain coming. It was so thick I could taste it, coating my tongue like I'd licked a wet stone. I flipped on my high beams hoping for clarity, but it was worse, like shining a flashlight into a mirror, the light bouncing back in a blinding glow that made my eyes ache. I muttered a curse under my breath, irritation creeping in. I was exhausted, my legs heavy from standing all night, my back stiff from leaning over the bar. This fog was gonna drag out my drive, and all I wanted was my bed. I eased off the gas, the car's engine dropping to a soft hum, and leaned forward, squinting into the mist. The road curved gently, and I could hear the tires crunching over stray gravel, the sound sharp in the quiet. My hands gripped the steering wheel, the vinyl cool and slightly sticky under my palms, and I felt that familiar ache in my knuckles from years of bartending. My mind wandered to Lila's story about that glowing orb, how she'd described it hovering over her field, silent and strange. Tommy had laughed it off, but I remembered the way her eyes darted, like she wasn't entirely sure it was a joke. Out here, alone, with the fog pressing in, her story didn't seem so far-fetched. That's when I saw it. Off to the right, just beyond the road's shoulder, a faint yellow light blinking through the haze. It was small at first, like a bike reflector catching my headlights, pulsing steadily. Blink, pause, blink. The color was odd, not quite amber like a road marker, more like the warm flicker of a candle, but sharper, more deliberate. It hovered there, maybe 30 feet away, though the fog played tricks with distance, making it hard to pin down. At first, I figured it was something mundane, a construction light maybe, or a farmer's equipment left out. But as I drove on, the light didn't behave like it should. It didn't get closer or fade away as I rounded the curves. It just stayed there, keeping pace with me, blinking in that same steady rhythm. My stomach twisted, a little knot of unease forming. I've seen weird stuff on these roads before. Deer eyes glowing like embers, or the time I swore I saw a shadow dart across the road, though it was probably just a trick of the light. But this felt intentional, like it was watching me. The air in the car felt heavier now, the faint smell of my cologne mixing with the damp chill seeping through the cracked window. I could hear my own breathing, shallow and quick, and the soft tick of the dashboard clock, each second stretching out. I thought back to my grandpa's old stories, the ones he'd tell us kids around a campfire. Tales of ghost lights in the marshes, leading travelers off cliffs. He'd always laugh, but his voice had this edge, like he'd seen something himself once. Was this what he meant?